Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Catalonia. Catalonia is an autonomous community of Spain, located on the northeastern extremity of the Iberian Peninsula. It is designated as a nationality by its Statute of Autonomy. Catalonia consists of 4 provinces: Barcelona, Girona, Lleida, and Tarragona. The capital and largest city is Barcelona, the second most populated municipality in Spain, and the core of the 7th most populous urban area in the European Union. Catalonia comprises most of the territory of the former Principality of Catalonia. It is bordered by France and Andorra to the north, the Mediterranean Sea to the east, and the Spanish autonomous communities of Aragon to the west and Valencia to the south. The official languages are Catalan, Spanish, and the Aranese dialect of Occitan. In the late 8th century, the counties of the March of Gothia and the Hispanic March were established by the Frankish kingdom as feudatory vassals across and near the eastern Pyrenees as a defensive barrier against Muslim invasions. The eastern counties of these marches were united under the rule of the Frankish vassal the Count of Barcelona, and were later called Catalonia. In 1137, Catalonia and the Kingdom of Aragon were united by marriage under the Crown of Aragon, and the Principality of Catalonia became the base for the Crown of Aragon's naval power and expansionism in the Mediterranean. In the later Middle Ages, Catalan literature flourished. Between 1469 and 1516, the King of Aragon and the Queen of Castile married and ruled their kingdoms together, retaining all their distinct institutions, courts, and constitutions. During the Franco-Spanish War, Catalonia revolted against a large and burdensome presence of the royal army in its territory, becoming a republic under French protection. Within a brief period, France took full control of Catalonia, at a high economic cost for Catalonia, until it was largely reconquered by the Spanish army. Under the terms of the Treaty of the Pyrenees in 1659, which ended the wider Franco-Spanish War, the Spanish crown ceded the northern parts of Catalonia, mostly incorporated in the county of Roussillon, to France. During the War of the Spanish Succession, the Crown of Aragon sided against the Bourbon Philip V of Spain, whose subsequent victory led to the abolition of non-Castilian institutions in all of Spain and the replacement of Latin and other languages with Spanish in legal documents. In the 19th century, Catalonia was severely affected by the Napoleonic and Carlist wars. In the second half of the century, Catalonia experienced industrialisation. As wealth from the industrial expansion grew, Catalonia saw a cultural renaissance coupled with incipient nationalism, while several workers' movements appeared. In 1914, the 4 Catalan provinces formed a commonwealth, and with the return of democracy during the Second Spanish Republic, the Generalitat of Catalonia was restored as an autonomous government. After the Spanish Civil War, the Francoist dictatorship enacted repressive measures, abolishing Catalan institutions and banning the official use of the Catalan language again. From the late 1950s through to the early 1970s, Catalonia saw rapid economic growth, drawing many workers from across Spain, making Barcelona one of Europe's largest industrial metropolitan areas, and turning Catalonia into a major tourist destination. Since the Spanish transition to democracy, Catalonia has regained some political and cultural autonomy, and is now one of the most economically dynamic communities of Spain. Etymology and pronunciation. The name Catalonia, spelled Catalonia, or Catalonia, in medieval Latin, began to be used for the homeland of the Catalans in the late 11th century. and was probably used before as a territorial reference to the group of counties that comprised part of the March of Gothia and March of Hispania under the control of the Count of Barcelona and his relatives. The origin of the name Catalonia is subject to diverse interpretations because of a lack of evidence. One theory suggests that Catalonia derives from the name Gothia, since the origins of the Catalan counts, lords, and people were found in the March of Gothia, known as Gothia, whence Gothland greater than Gothlandia greater than Gothalania greater than Catalonia greater than Catalonia theoretically derived. During the Middle Ages, Byzantine chroniclers claimed that Catalonia derives from the local medley of Goths with Alans, initially constituting a Gothalania. Other less plausible theories suggest Catalonia derives from the term land of castles, having evolved from the term castler or castellan, the medieval term for the ruler of a castle. This theory therefore suggests that the names Catalonia and Castile have a common root. The sources of Celtic origin, meaning chiefs of battle. Although the area is not known to have been occupied by Celts, a Celtic culture was present within the interior of Iberia in pre-Roman times. The Lusitani, an Iberian tribe that lived in the area and whose name, due to the Roman influence, could have evolved by metathesis to Catalans and then Catalans. In English, Catalonia is pronounced. The native name, Catalonia, is pronounced in Central Catalan, the most widely spoken variety whose pronunciation is considered standard. The Spanish name is Cataluna, and the Aranese name is Catalona. Prehistory. The first known human settlements in what is now Catalonia were at the beginning of the Middle Paleolithic. The oldest known trace of human occupation is a mandible found in Banyoles, described by some sources as pre-Neanderthal, some 200,000 years old. Other sources suggest it to be only about one-third that year old. From the next prehistoric era, the Epipaleolithic or Mesolithic, important remains survive, the greater part dated between 8000 BC and 5000 BC, such as those of St. Gregory and El Filador. The Neolithic era began in Catalonia around 5000 BC, although the population was slower to develop fixed settlements than in other places, thanks to the abundance of woods, which allowed a continuation of a fundamentally hunter-gatherer culture. The Chalcolithic, or Neolithic period developed in Catalonia between 2500 and 1800 BC, with the beginning of the construction of copper objects. The Bronze Age occurred between 1800 and 700 BC. There are few remnants of this era, but there were some known settlements in the Low Segre zone. The Bronze Age coincided with the arrival of the Indo-Europeans through the Urnfield culture, whose successive waves of migration began around 1200 BC, and they were responsible for the creation of the first proto-urban settlements around the middle of the 7th century BC. The Iron Age arrived in Catalonia. Pre-Roman and Roman period. In Tarragona, in Tall, located at the foothills of the Pyrenees. In pre-Roman times, the area that is now called Catalonia in the northeast of Iberian Peninsula, like the rest of the Mediterranean side of the peninsula, was populated by the Iberians. Coastal trading colonies were established by the ancient Greeks, who settled around the Roses area. Both Greeks and Carthaginians briefly ruled the territory in the course of the Second Punic War and traded with the surrounding Iberian population. After the Carthaginian defeat by the Roman Republic, the northeast of Iberia became the first to come under Roman rule and became part of Hispania, the westernmost part of the Roman Empire. Tarraco was one of the most important Roman cities in Hispania, and the capital of the province of Tarraconensis. Middle Ages. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the area was conquered by the Visigoths, and was ruled as part of the Visigothic kingdom for almost 2.5 centuries. In 718, it came under Muslim control and became part of Al-Andalus, a province of the Umayyad Caliphate. From the conquest of Roussillon in 760, to the conquest of Barcelona in 801, the Frankish Empire took control of the area between Septimania and the Llobregat River from the Muslims and created heavily militarized, self-governing counties. These counties formed part of the Gothic and Hispanic Marches, a buffer zone in the south of the Frankish Empire in the former province of Septimania, and in the northeast of the Iberian Peninsula, to act as a defensive barrier for the Frankish Empire against further Muslim invasions from Al-Andalus. These counties came under the rule of the Counts of Barcelona, who were Frankish vassals nominated by the Emperor of the Franks, to whom they were feudatories. The earliest known use of the name Catalonia for these counties dates to 1117. During the 9th century, the Count Wilfrid the Hairy made its title hereditary, and founded the dynasty of the House of Barcelona, which ruled Catalonia until 1410. In 987, Borrell II, Count of Barcelona, did not recognize Hugh Capet as his king, making his successors de facto independent of the Carolingian crown. At the start of 11th century, the Catalan counties suffer an important process of feudalization, partially controlled by the peace and truce assemblies and by the power and negotiation skills of the Counts of Barcelona like Ramon Barangay in 1137. Ramon Barangay IV, Count of Barcelona, decided to accept King Ramiro II of Aragon's proposal to marry Queen Petronila, establishing the dynastic union of the County of Barcelona with the Kingdom of Aragon, joining the Crown of Aragon, and making the Catalan counties that were united under the County of Barcelona into a principality of the Aragonese crown. In 1258, by means of the Treaty of Corbeil, the Count of Barcelona and King of Aragon, of Majorca and of Valencia, James I of Aragon renounced his family rights and dominions in Occitania and recognized the King of France as heir of the Carolingian dynasty. The King of France formally relinquished his nominal feudal lordship over all the Catalan counties, except the County of Foix, despite the opposition of the King of Aragon and Count of Barcelona. This treaty transformed the principality's de facto union with Aragon into a de jure one, and was the origin of the definitive separation between both geographical areas, Catalonia and Languedoc. As a coastal territory, Catalonia became the base of the Aragonese crown's maritime forces, which spread the power of the Aragonese crown in the Mediterranean, and made Barcelona into a powerful and wealthy city. In the period of 1164 to 1410, new territories, the Kingdom of Valencia, the Kingdom of Majorca, Sardinia, the Kingdom of Sicily and Corsica, and the duchies of Athens and Neopatras, were incorporated into the dynastic domains of the House of Aragon. At the same time, the Principality of Catalonia developed a complex institutional and political system based in the concept of a pact between the estates of the realm and the king. Laws had to be approved in the General Court of Catalonia, one of the first parliamentary bodies of Europe that banned the royal power to create legislation unilaterally. The courts were composed of the three estates, were presided over by the King of Aragon, and approved the constitutions, which created a compilation of rights for the citizenship of the principality. In order to collect general taxes, The courts of 1359 established a permanent representative of deputies position, called the Deputation of the General, which gained political power over the next centuries. The domains of the Aragonese crown were severely affected by the Black Death pandemic and by later outbreaks of the plague. Between 1347 and 1497, Catalonia lost 37% of its population. In 1410, King Martin I died without surviving descendants. Under the Compromise of Caspe, Ferdinand, from the Castilian House of Trastamara, received the crown of Aragon as Ferdinand I of Aragon. During the reign of its son, John II, social and political tensions caused the Catalan Civil War. Modern era. Ferdinand II of Aragon, the grandson of Ferdinand I, and Queen Isabella I of Castile were married in 1469. Later taking the title the Catholic monarchs. Subsequently, this event was seen by historiographers as the dawn of a unified Spain. At this time, though united by marriage, the crowns of Castile and Aragon maintained distinct territories, each keeping its own traditional institutions, parliaments, and laws. Castile commissioned expeditions to the Americas and benefited from the riches acquired in the Spanish colonization of the Americas, but, in time, also carried the main burden of military expenses of the United Spanish Kingdoms. After Isabella's death, Ferdinand II personally ruled both kingdoms, by virtue of descent from his maternal grandparents, Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. In 1516, Charles I of Spain became the first king to rule the crowns of Castile and Aragon simultaneously by his own right. Following the death of his paternal grandfather, Maximilian I, Holy Roman Emperor, he was also elected Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, in 1519. Over the next few centuries, the Principality of Catalonia was generally on the losing side of a series of wars that led steadily to more centralization of power in Spain. Despite this fact, between the 16th and 18th centuries, the participation of the political community in the local and the general Catalan government was increased, while the kings remained absent, and its constitutional system continued to consolidate. The Catalan Revolt saw Catalonia rebel, with French help, against the Spanish crown for overstepping Catalonia's rights. During the 30 Years' War, most of Catalonia was reconquered by the Spanish monarchy, but Catalan rights were recognized. Roussillon was lost to France by the Peace of the Pyrenees. The most significant conflict concerning the governing monarchy was the War of the Spanish Succession, which began when the childless Charles II of Spain, the last Spanish Habsburg, died without an heir in 1700. Charles II had chosen Philip V of Spain from the French House of Bourbon. Catalonia, like other territories that formed the Crown of Aragon, rose up in support of the Austrian Habsburg pretender Charles VI, Holy Roman Emperor, in his claim for the Spanish throne as Charles III of Spain. The fight between the houses of Bourbon and Habsburg for the Spanish crown split Spain and Europe. The fall of Barcelona on the 11th of September 1714 to the Bourbon king Philip V militarily ended the Habsburg claim to the Spanish crown, which became legal fact in the Treaty of Utrecht. Philip felt that he had been betrayed by the Catalan courts, as it had initially sworn its loyalty to him when he had presided over it in 1701. In retaliation for the betrayal, the first Bourbon king introduced the Nueva Planta decrees that incorporated the territories of the Crown of Aragon, including Catalonia, as provinces under the Crown of Castile in 1716. terminating their separate institutions, laws and rights, within a united Kingdom of Spain. During the second half of 18th century, Catalonia started a successful process of proto-industrialization, industrialization and beyond. At the beginning of the 19th century, Catalonia was severely affected by the Napoleonic and Carlist wars. In the latter half of the 19th century, it became an industrial center. To this day it remains one of the most industrialized parts of Spain. During those years, Barcelona was the focus of important revolutionary uprisings, while the Catalan language saw a cultural renaissance. 1909, the anarchists had been active throughout the early 20th century, achieving the first 8-hour workday in Europe in 1919. In the first third of the 20th century, Catalonia gained and lost varying degrees of autonomy several times. In 1914, the 4 Catalan provinces were authorized to create a commonwealth, without any legislative power or specific autonomy, that was disbanded in 1925 by the dictatorship of Primo de Rivera. After the fall of the dictator and a brief proclamation of the Catalan Republic, it received its first statute of autonomy during the Second Spanish Republic, establishing an autonomous body, the Generalitat of Catalonia, which included a parliament, a government and a court of appeal. And the left-wing independentist leader Francesc Macià was elected its first president. The governments of the Republican Generalitat tried to implement an advanced social program. This period was marked by political unrest and the preeminence of revolutionary Catalonia. During the Spanish Civil War, the defeat of the Second Spanish Republic in the Spanish Civil War brought fascist Francisco Franco to power as dictator. His regime imposed linguistic, political, and cultural restrictions across Spain. In Catalonia, any kind of public activities associated with Catalan nationalism, republicanism, anarchism, socialism, liberalism, democracy, or communism, including the publication of books on those subjects, or simply discussion of them in open meetings, was banned. Franco's regime banned the use of Catalan in government-run institutions and during public events, and also the Catalan institutions of self-government were abolished. The pro-Republic of Spain president of Catalonia, Luis Companys, was taken to Spain from his exile in the German-occupied France, and was tortured and executed in the Montjuïc Castle of Barcelona for the crime of military rebellion. During later stages of Francoist Spain, certain folkloric and religious celebrations in Catalan resumed, and were tolerated. Use of Catalan in the mass media had been forbidden, but was permitted from the early 1950s in the theatre. Despite the ban during the first years, and the difficulties of the next period, publishing in Catalan continued throughout the dictatorship. The years after the war were extremely hard. Catalonia, like many other parts of Spain, had been devastated by the war. Recovery from the war damage was slow and made more difficult by the international trade embargo against Franco's dictatorial regime. By the late 1950s, the country had recovered its pre-war economic levels, and in the 1960s was the second fastest growing economy in the world in what became known as the Spanish Miracle. During this period there was a spectacular growth of industry and tourism in Catalonia that drew large numbers of workers to the region from across Spain, and made the area around Barcelona into one of Europe's largest industrial metropolitan areas. After Franco's death in 1975, Catalonia voted for the adoption of a democratic Spanish constitution in 1978, in which Catalonia recovered political and cultural autonomy, restoring the Generalitat in 1977. and adopting a new Statute of Autonomy in 1979. Today, Catalonia is one of the most economically dynamic communities of Spain. The Catalan capital and largest city, Barcelona, is a major international cultural center and a major tourist destination. In 1992, Barcelona hosted the Summer Olympic Games. 21st century. The new Statute of Autonomy of Catalonia, approved after a referendum in 2006, was contested by important sectors of the Spanish society, especially by the conservative Popular Party, which sent the law to the Constitutional Court of Spain. In 2010, the court declared non-valid some of the articles that established an autonomous Catalan system of justice, better aspects of the financing, a new territorial division, the status of Catalan language, and the symbolical declaration of Catalonia as a nation. This decision was severely contested by large sectors of Catalan society, which increased the demands of independence. On 9 November 2015, Catalan lawmakers approved a plan for secession from Spain by 2017 with a vote 72 to 63. The plan was suspended by the Spanish Constitutional Court. Climate. The climate of Catalonia is diverse. The populated areas lying by the coast in Tarragona, Barcelona and Girona provinces feature a hot summer Mediterranean climate. The inland parts show a mostly Mediterranean climate. The Pyrenean peaks have a continental or even alpine climate at the highest summits, while the valleys have a maritime or oceanic climate subtype. In the Mediterranean area, summers are dry and hot, with sea breezes, and the maximum temperature is around. Winter is cool or slightly cold depending on the location. It snows frequently in the Pyrenees, and it occasionally snows at lower altitudes, even by the coastline. Spring and autumn are typically the rainiest seasons, except for the Pyrenean valleys, where summer is typically stormy. The inland part of Catalonia is hotter and drier in summer. Temperature may reach, some days even nights are cooler there than at the coast, with the temperature of around. Fog is not uncommon in valleys and plains. It can be especially persistent, with freezing drizzle episodes and sub-zero temperatures during winter, along the Segre and in other river valleys. Topography. Catalonia has a marked geographical diversity, considering the relatively small size of its territory. The geography is conditioned by the Mediterranean coast, with of coastline, and large relief units of the Pyrenees. To the north, the Catalan territory is divided into three main geomorphological units: the Pyrenees, mountainous formation that connects the Iberian Peninsula with the European continental territory, and located in the north of Catalonia; the Catalan coastal mountain ranges, or the Catalan Mediterranean system, and alternating elevations and plains parallel to the Mediterranean coast; the Catalan Central Depression, structural unit which forms the eastern sector of the valley of the Ebre. The Catalan Pyrenees represent almost half in length of the Pyrenees, as it extends more than traditionally differentiated the axial Pyrenees and the Pre-Pyrenees, which are mountainous formations parallel to the main mountain ranges, but with lower altitudes, less steep and a different geological formation. The highest mountain of Catalonia, located north of the comarca of Palas Sobirà, the Pica d'Estats, followed by the Puig Pedrós. On the Pre-Pyrenees is located the Serra del Cardi, that separates the valley of Cerdaña from the Central Depression, and the mountain of Montserrat. Central Catalan Depression is a plain located between the Pyrenees and pre-coastal mountains. The depression lands are located between the plains and the water that descend from the Pyrenees have made it fertile territory for agriculture, and there are built numerous irrigation canals. Other important plain is the Empordà, located on the northeast. The Catalan Mediterranean system is based on two parallel ranges to the coast, in a northwest direction towards the southwest. These two mountain ranges are the coastal and the pre-coastal. The coastal range is minor extent, and it has lower altitudes, while the pre-coastal is larger in both length and height. The most relevant mountains of this area are Montserrat and the Montseny. Within the ranges are a series of plains, the entities over which form the coastal and the pre-coastal depressions. The coastal depression is located on the east of the coastal range towards the coast. The pre-coastal, on the other hand, is located in the interior, between the two mountain ranges, and constitutes the basis of the plains of Val and Penedès. Flora and fauna. Catalonia is a showcase of European landscapes on a small scale, hosting a variety of substrates, soils, climates, directions, altitudes and distances to the sea. The area is of great ecological diversity and a remarkable wealth of landscapes, habitats and species. The fauna of Catalonia comprises a minority of animals endemic to the region, and a majority of non-native animals. Much of Catalonia enjoys a Mediterranean climate, which makes many of the animals that live there adapted to Mediterranean ecosystems. Of mammals, there are plentiful wild boar, red foxes, as well as roe deer and in the Pyrenees, the Pyrenean chamois. Other large species such as the bear have been recently reintroduced. Waters of Balearic Sea are rich in biodiversity, and even the megafaunas of ocean. Various types of whales and dolphins live within the area. Hydrography. Costa Brava. Most of Catalonia belongs to the Mediterranean basin. The Catalan hydrographic network consists of two important basins, the one of the Ebro, and the one that comprises the internal basins of Catalonia. All of them flow to the Mediterranean. Furthermore, there is the Garona River basin that flows to the Atlantic Ocean, but it only covers 1.73% of the Catalan territory. The hydrographic network can be divided in two sectors, an occidental slope or Ebro River slope, and one oriental slope constituted by minor rivers that flow to the Mediterranean along the Catalan coast. The first slope provides an average of per year, while the second only provides an average of per year. The difference is due to the big contribution of the Ebro River, from which the Segre is an important tributary. Moreover, in Catalonia there is a relative wealth of groundwaters, although there is inequality between comarques, given the complex geological structure of the territory. In the Pyrenees there are many small lakes, remnants of the Ice Age. The biggest is the one of Banyoles. The Catalan coast is almost rectilinear, with a length of and few landforms. The most relevant are the Cap de Creus and the Gulf of Roses to the north, and the Ebro Delta to the south. The Catalan coastal range hugs the coastline, and it is split into two segments, one between L'Estado and the town of Blanes, and the other at the south, at the Costa del Garraf. The principal rivers in Catalonia are the Ter, Llobregat, and the Ebro, all of which run into the Mediterranean. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.